Always a fun time to talk to Kirby Dean, head coach of the Eastern Mennonite Royals. Big weekend for Eastern Mennonite with a game against Roanoke coming in to their place. And, Coach, let's kind of talk a little bit about the season as a whole. To say that you guys lost a lot from last year, maybe even an understatement to the word a lot. Talk about the challenges of replacing all those guys.
Well, I think that probably, and I've said this to my team, my guess would be I'm not sure there's another team in the country that lost more than us. And I'm not just talking about Division III. I'm talking about every level. We lost all 5 starters. We lost arguably our 6th man. So 6 of our top 8, are no longer with us. And a lot of the guys that were in the program last year, didn't get to play a lot. Not because they weren't pretty good players, but the guys in front of them happened to be, seniors and really, really, really good players. So it's been an interesting challenge, and I knew that coming in, that even though we had some good players, they hadn't played together. They hadn't been on the floor together. The freshmen obviously hadn't been here at all. So it was almost like, I don't want to say starting at square one, but it was pretty close. But the good news is we knew that coming in, and the other good thing is to have a situation like that, you've had to have a really good run, and we did. We had a fantastic run. The only negative associated with the run that we made was the fact that the committee did us wrong last year and left us out of the NCAA tournament. But other than that, it was a great run. So you understand when you do something like that at some point you may pay the piper, and that's what we're doing right now. But even with that said, I really like where we're at. I don't know how much you and I will talk about that through the course of this conversation, but we're in a really, really good spot right now as far as what the future looks like for our program.
Yeah, we are going to get to that. One thing I wanted to touch on before we kind of dive into stuff like that is how long do you feel it took to really get the chemistry developed with all those new guys and, people that just weren't used to playing with each other?
I'll let you know when it happens. We've continued to get better, and I'm really encouraged with the direction that we're headed. But I don't think that we've settled in to being as good as we can be. One of the things that I tell the kids often is that a lot of teams don't really get better after Christmas. They kind of are what they are, and that's what's going to be. And we've really tried to focus on continuing to improve. And I think we've done that. We've had 2 games this semester where we didn't play well, and every other game you can make the argument that we played pretty well. So I definitely think that we're on the upswing, but I don't think we've reached our potential at this point, which I think is a good thing.
I saw you a little bit after the game that you guys played against Hampton-Sydney, and I don't want to dwell on that, obviously, but do you think that taught a lot of your kids, what college basketball is like and, things of that sort in terms of the result?
Yeah, I think that was a great experience. I know that sounds weird, but I think with a team as young as ours, you got to go through some things like that. And obviously, Sydney, they're really, really talented. It was kind of the perfect storm. They're really talented. We kind of had our way with them the last 3 years, and I'm sure that was something that was talked about in their locker room. We were really, really young. They had a really big crowd I won't say a big crowd, but they had a really good student section, let's say that. And I just think that all snowballed into what happened was us getting our doors blown off. And while that may have been disappointing, that kind of gives you a low watermark to kind of judge yourself the rest of the way. So, we've tried to really, really focus on getting better and maturing and learn to play together and get better defensively and do all those things that good teams do. So, who knows? We may play Sydney again for those things all said and done. And what better measuring stick, than to have an opportunity to play those guys again and see how far we've come.
We talked a little bit about, obviously, the losses in terms of, last year's team. R.J. Sims and Andrew Thorne leading the team in scoring this year. But who would you say is maybe leading the team with the leadership?
I would say Owen Longacre has really developed into a nice leader. And Andrew Thorne, even though, he's one of our leading scorers, he's also one of our leaders. Those are our 2 juniors that are playing, and pretty much everybody else that's playing significant minutes is either a freshman or a sophomore, which is quite a transition from last year, where basically 5 seniors were averaging, close to 30 minutes. But those 2 guys have done a really nice job. One of the things I've had to talk to Drew especially is he's used to winning. He's used to winning big, and it's been frustrating for him, to be 8-10. But he's done a pretty good job of, keeping some proper focus and perspective on where things are. And like I say, I think one of the things that encourages him is the young kids keep getting better. We got a transfer who's sitting out who's going to really help us next year. And I would say, I can't talk specifically about recruiting, but we probably are in a better spot right now than we've ever been recruiting-wise in my 9 years here. So, if we keep everybody, our transfer will become eligible, at the end of this semester. And then we add to it, a couple pieces that we're heavily involved with right now. I don't know, Bob. I don't want to get overly optimistic, but I don't see any reason why we can't be pretty darn good again.
Right, and I was going to say too, back to the leadership thing real quick, you talk about with a lot of freshmen and sophomores playing, if a freshman and sophomore wants to step up and lead, what's kind of your view on that? Because I think a lot of people might be, scared to take that leadership role at such a young age, and especially, if they feel like they haven't paid their dues in the program, so to speak. But how do you see it?
Well, I can tell you that George Johnson became a leader the first day he stepped on campus as a freshman 4 years ago. So I don't have any inhibitions about a youngster being a leader if they have those qualities. I don't think it's something you can force. I think it's got to be a natural thing. I'm one of those coaches that, I'm a little, I'm a little weird. I'm not even one of those coaches that has, big meetings with the guys and details what their role is and says, this is what I need from you and this is what I expect, because I just don't like putting kids in a box like that.
Right.
I like for them to kind of feel their way and kind of figure it out for themselves and kind of, not put limitations on them, not say, hey, you need to be, my defensive stopper. Well, yeah, I may need you to be that, but it'd be nice if you develop the ability to put the ball in the basket occasionally too. So, I'm comfortable with anybody leading if they have those qualities that they need to have to be a leader. We have some young kids. Some of the guys in our sophomore class. They're going to be good leaders, and they're already taking on small parts of that role. I wouldn't say we have one guy that everybody rallies around. If we have 10 huddles at the end of 10 practices, we may have 4 or 5 different guys speak up at that time, and I'm totally comfortable with that. I don't think that's a problem at all.
We'll talk a little bit about your matchup and a little bit about the league as a whole, but let's first focus on Roanoke. You've got them on Saturday night. What worries you about Coach Moyer's group?
Well, they're another team that's young and they're trying to kind of get things going. But here recently they've played some really good games. They're kind of like us. They're young, so they have some ups and downs, and they can be really good one day and not quite as good the next. But I know they went down to Wesleyan and they played them tough down there, which is that's probably one of the toughest places in the country to play. And then they went to Randolph, which has been a house of horrors for me.
Right.
And beat those guys. So I think they've shown that they have the talent and the potential to play with and beat anybody. They just haven't been able to find that consistency, which has, been something similar with us. So, and the other thing is, as talented as we are, which I really, really do think we have a very talented team, when you're young, it's a roller coaster, and some nights you just don't know what you're going to get. So there's not a game this year that we've played where I've gone in and thought, well, this is a W. Last year there were numerous games where I knew, that it would take something really strange for us to lose. It doesn't take really strange things for us to lose this year. It just takes us not to come ready to play, or maybe we're not making shots, or maybe we're not focused on the defensive end. So our margins for error is really not nearly as large as it was last year, and that's okay. That's part of the growing process. So we understand that this Roanoke game is a really big game for us. Certainly it's a game that we can win, because I feel like there's not a game in the conference we can't win. But it's also a game that we can lose, because Roanoke is a dangerous team.
With that being said, and everything, but how much different is this year as opposed to last year with your mentality, maybe in terms of patience and everything like that?
Well, I've had to focus on having more patience. I joke around with people around here. George coached the team the last 4 years, so I've been, they've been paying me for just kind of sitting on the bench and showing up. The other thing I've said, which now this is not a joke, this is actually true. I probably called more timeouts the first 6 or 8 games of this year than I called all of last year. I just didn't have to call timeouts last year. I mean, even if another team got on a run, my kids can handle that. They can handle that within the context of between the lines. So it's been different. I've had to really rev the engines up, and I've had to bring more energy to practice and more focus to film. The whole 9 yards. But that's a good thing. I'm kind of where we were when those guys were freshmen. George likes to call me and say, "Man, you're not as good as we were," and pick on me and that kind of thing. But the reality is, those guys won 9 games as freshmen, and I'm pretty sure. I want to be careful what I say because you never know in this league. But I'm pretty sure we're going to win more than 9 games because we already got 8.
Right.
I feel like we're on the right track. We've just had to have a little more patience and a little more of understanding and having a perspective of where our kids are as far as in the maturity process. But at the same time, our motto for the year was different team, but same expectations. Now, I get it. We can't. Obviously, people don't expect out of us what they expected last year. I understand that. But while that may not be our immediate goal, don't think that conversations about the future don't even creep in with this team because we don't lose anybody. I mean, everybody in that locker room, after a great win or a tough loss, will be in that locker room before our first game next year. So it's easy to say, hey, we want to win now. We want to get as good as we can get and go to the ODAC tournament and maybe find a way to meander through that bracket somehow, and who knows, do something crazy. We have the ability to do that. But even if that doesn't happen, if we can just focus on getting better, we've spent more time in the weight room during the season this year. We've spent more time on individual development than we have in the past because we know that as much as we want to win this year, there's even more potential to win next year and the year after that, if everybody sticks together. So it's a little different focus, but I think it's the same type goals.
Obviously, with me broadcasting for Alta Vista and you knowing them a little bit too, I'm going to kind of tie this question in. Alta Vista's a little bit young this year, and Coach Carlero and I have talked that when they come into somewhere, everybody thinks that they're going to get their licks in on the Colonels now because they're young rather than underestimating them. Do you feel you're in that same way in terms of, hey, EMU's been so good, we're going to get our licks in on them now?
Absolutely. There's never been a truer statement than that. I mean, when we went to Sydney, you could see that, they weren't happy with the way the last three years had gone. And when we went down to Wesleyan the other day, we had beaten them 5 straight times. We hadn't lost to them since George and those guys were freshmen. And it was pretty evident to me that was something that I'm sure that they had talked about. We had gone down there 2 times in a row and won. And that's just unheard of.
Right.
So, yeah, and I've even told my guys that. I said, you guys are you're going to pay the price for the sins of the guys in front of you, and the sins being that they whacked a lot of people. So a lot of people are going to try to it's not about who's on the team, it's about who's on the front of the jersey, and they're trying to get us. And I think that's good. I mean, that's only going to make us tougher. I mean, people are coming after us, even though we're young, and I think in the long run, that's how you get your program where you want to be, because you're taking everybody's best shot. You get used to that. You come to expect it. And if you don't come ready to play, hey, you're in trouble.
Let's touch real quick on the ODAC as a whole. Who would be maybe some teams that have stuck out to you or surprised you this year?
I think everybody knew that Virginia Wesleyan was going to be really good. I think everybody knew that Hampton Sydney was going to be really good. Guilford was picked high. I think they were picked 3rd. I'm not sure I realized that they were as good as they are. But obviously everybody else realized it. I just didn't know exactly what they had, but I knew Tom would do a great job. I think that they've been very good. Macon is obviously having a great year. Now they have the benefit of 2 wins over us on 3s at the buzzer, which is a whole nother story, a whole nother interview that we won't even go into here. But to say that those were tough losses for us, we could be in a totally different spot right now. If you flip those 2 losses to wins, which, theoretically, we were in position to win both those games, and coaches say that a lot. But I think this is a genuine situation where, they hit a 3 at the end of the game down there, and we were up 2. And then here we had a chance to win at the end and missed a shot, and they got the rebound, took 4 dribbles just across half court and hit a 3. But with that said, they're having a great year, because they lost a lot too. Mm-hmm. So they've done well. And then Lynchburg, you could kind of see that coming, that they were getting better, incrementally, and I think it's kind of come to a head. Now they're having a really, really good year. And Hillary's done a great job there, obviously, and they got their program kind of, going in the direction they want to go, and I'm sure they want to go even further. So, to me, those are the teams that jump off the page, initially.
You got them next week, Lynchburg and Randolph, at Randolph, which I look forward to seeing you next Saturday. But touch on those 2 teams and kind of just in a nutshell what sticks out to you about those, or I hate to use the word worry, but worry.
Well, it's hard for me to say a whole lot about Lynchburg because I'm one of those coaches. I just focus on the team that's right in front of me, and we haven't played them yet, so I really haven't seen a lot of film on them. I just have seen scores. I know they've had some injury problems recently, which has hurt them a little bit, but I know when they're at full strength, they're really, really good. So, and my understanding is, without seeing them on film, that they're playing a style that's a lot more similar to us than what they've done in the past.
Yep,
so that'll be an interesting matchup because you'll have similar styles. The difference will be, hopefully this won't be the difference. This is the difference going in. The difference going in is that they're playing that style with a lot of juniors and seniors, and we're playing that style with a lot of freshmen and sophomores.
Right.
So, we'll see what happens. In Randolph, it doesn't matter when, where, why, what the situation is when we play those guys. They are the exact opposite of us. Clay and I joked a little bit about that, about the last game. I mean, they want to slow it down and they want to execute their offense, and we want to get out and play more transition. And it's always an interesting game when we play them. A lot of them have been really close games, particularly at their place. And that's a really hard place to play. You walk in there and it's hard to get really excited about playing in that facility if it's not your home facility. So we haven't had our best games there, but I think they probably get a lot of the credit for that. So we'll have our hands full, and we're at a point now where, whether the excuses of the past are no longer valid. The freshmen are now sophomores, the sophomores are juniors, so we got to find a way to get some wins, so that we can position ourselves to have a chance in the tournament.
Final question for you, Coach. As always, appreciate your time. I've seen several of the teams this year in the league, and to me, W&L, when I saw them, they slowed it down a little bit as well. When you play a slow-down team like a Randolph or whoever else, do you have to put in maybe an extra day or so of prep time just to get used to that, since you guys don't really play as slow as they do? And I mean that complimentary to Randolph.
Yeah, we talk about it. We do a lot of film work with our guys as far as, looking at clips of the opposing team heading in. At the end of the day, though, we're going to do everything we can do to force our style on you. We're going to try to increase the pace to the best of our ability. And we're not as good at it right now as we have been the last 3 years. And that's why, you see some lower scoring games and some games where we struggle. But we also show flashes of being able to speed up even the slowest teams. And I think that's a process that you have to learn how to do that. You have to learn how to push the pace on offense. You have to learn how to attack even when a team is playing really, really soft man-to-man and just guarding the paint. You have to learn defensively how to speed them up and get deflections and create havoc and just kind of get the game into a kind of a frenetic, crazy pace. And we're not as good as we need to be, but I think before it's all said and done, we're going to be pretty good at it.
Coach, as always, appreciate your time. Look forward to talking to you soon.
Hey, appreciate you.